Name is Gerald McCarthy. It's Gerald McCarthy.
Good afternoon, Mr. McCarthy.
Good afternoon.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Michigan State Police.
And in what unit are you employed with the State Police?
I'm in the computer crime unit, which we also have a task force, which I'm part of.
Okay. And what are your roles and duties in the computer crime unit?
My roles and duties are, I'm a digital forensic analyst is my title. So what I do is any type of digital device evidence relating to a case comes into our lab for examination. So I do basically computer forensic examinations, cell phone examinations, tablets, any type of digital media that is involved in a police investigation will often come to our lab for analysis and examination.
And how long have you been working in that capacity with the Michigan State Police?
I've been with the Michigan State Police for about 8 years now, and I did this type of work prior to that.
Okay. So this isn't, I mean, you've been doing this longer than 8 years, I guess.
I have, yes. I was a police officer for the city of Kentwood for 26 years, and I was a detective at Kentwood for approximately 12 years, and I was doing computer forensics for the Kentwood Police Department and assisting area departments before the state police came to the West Michigan area and created their lab in Grand Rapids.
Now, well, give me 1 second. Mr. Johnson, I'll go through the list.
I will stipulate to Mr. McCarthy's qualifications.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move to admit Mr. McCarthy as an expert in computer forensic science.
Okay, he'll be allowed to testify as an expert in that field.
Now, you've testified in court before on this subject, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
About how many times?
I've testified a number of times in both district court, circuit court, federal court, and federal cases. I've testified in the state of Michigan and the state of Iowa. Several dozen times I've testified as an expert in computer forensics.
And before we get to some of the details of your work in these investigations, can you maybe describe for the jury some of the process that goes into what you do?
Sure. For example, when a computer comes into us, we do several different things. We first examine it. We read the police reports so we know what the investigation is about. We examine the piece of evidence. We log it into evidence as a property item. We tag it. And then we go through a process for a computer. What we do is we remove the hard drive that's inside the computer. The hard drive is what the data is kept on a computer. And so we open the computer up and we remove the hard drive. We note the make and model, the size of the hard drive. And at that point, what we do is we do what we call a forensic image of that hard drive. And by doing that, we take that hard drive and we connect it to a what we call a forensic hardware device that will prevent any writes to that. It's called a hardware write block. And that device prevents any changes in the original evidence. We never work off the original evidence. We make a forensic copy, which is a bit by bit stream identical copy of the hard drive, and then we make a copy to our forensic machine and then work off the forensic copy. So that way we're not making any changes to the hard drive of the computer. When you boot a Windows operating system, you make several thousand changes just by booting the Windows system up, by changing the dates and times and different programs that are on the system. So we don't want to change anything. We want to look at the hard drive on a computer exactly like it was when it came into us. So we work off the forensic image.
Now, is technology such, and I guess do you have access to this technology, that even if individuals delete something off of their hard drive or a system, that you have the capacity and the capability to potentially retrieve that.
Yes, so we've got forensic tools, forensic software that can recover deleted items. It depends on how long ago the item was deleted and if it was written over. A lot of storage devices are very large, and they will keep things in what we call unallocated space that is just waiting for it to be written over with new information. So our tools and our software does allow us to recover certain items that have been deleted. And it depends if they're in the recycle bin or if they've been removed from the recycle bin itself.
Now, the way that, I guess, the information that you look for, obviously you look for images in certain cases, but also do computers, as part of their operating system, also implant other data that is of interest to you, whether it be dates and times or anything like that, outside of the images that you might be looking for themselves? Are there other things that computers imprint, if you will, that is of importance to your work?
Yes, and it depends obviously on the investigation. Images and videos a lot of times have what we call metadata embedded into them, where we can get a date and time, possibly some camera information off an image or a video that is embedded by the camera itself. So there's a lot of internal information of files inside a computer, very similar with Microsoft Word products, Office, where you create a Word document, you save it. It's going to embed certain things in there. The author of the Word document. So there's different things that we can gather. We can look at internet history. We can look at folder and structures and subfolders and dates and times. And it's quite a process that we go through in the examination, looking for evidence, and then exporting that out, verifying the evidence, and then reporting it.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the work you did in this investigation. In particular, were you part of, or were you out with with law enforcement the day that the search warrant was executed at the defendant's house, 1842 South Sheridan?
Yes, sir, I was.
And do you have the ability? Well, I guess let me ask you this question: Why would you be part of that? Why would it be necessary that you be there?
Our task force is we have several different members in our task force for the computer crime unit that assist at search warrants. We do quite a few search warrants, and we assist other departments in their search warrants. And that process is kind of twofold. First, we want to make sure all the digital evidence is gathered and collected and identified, and then preserved. And we also do previews at the scene of search warrants to take a look. We take a look at what information we have that we can gather to let the other investigators, the interview team, and the other investigators know what we have found at the scene. All right.
Well, let's talk about some of the pieces of evidence that were gathered in this particular case. You're going to see the monitor in front of you. We'll go through a couple of pictures here. This is People's Exhibit 30. And do you recall both seeing this at the time of the search warrant and analyzing it in the computer crimes unit?
Yes, I do.
This is an ASUS computer, is that correct?
Yes, it's ASUS tower type computer.
Now, are there ways that or things that you look for in order to establish ownership or usership, I guess, is the best way?
Yes, there is.
Okay, and let's talk generally what you're looking for, and then we'll talk specifically about this piece of evidence.
We want to identify whose computer this is. This happened to be in the defendant's bedroom. We also, then when we do the examination, we're looking for keywords, pictures, videos that identify who the owner of this is. And I was able to, during the examination, find several documents, pictures, videos, email names, passwords, different things that would identify who the owner of this computer was.
And based on that analysis, in this particular case, were you able to come to a conclusion as to who the owner was of this Asus computer?
Yes, I was.
And who was that?
That was the defendant, Jeffrey Willis.
Okay. Now, outside of the metadata and whatnot, most computers, and this may be no different than most, have other ports, if you will, like USB ports or other headphone jacks and all that other stuff. Is technology such that the computer keeps track of when something is plugged into it?
Yes, it does.
And in this particular case, were you able to determine whether or not some of the other pieces of evidence that you collected were actually plugged into this computer?
Yes, I was. There was a number of devices that the Windows operating system, the registry within the operating system collects when you plug in anything into a USB port, which is either usually on the front or back or sometimes the side of a computer. It collects information from the device that is being plugged in the registry. So we can often identify a camera, a phone, a USB thumb drive, an external hard drive by the make and model of what was plugged into a USB port.
Now, let me show you another piece of evidence here collected. This is People's Exhibit 29. It is a Western Digital hard drive found in the master bedroom as well. Do you recall being alerted to this particular piece of evidence at the time of the search warrant?
Yes, sir, I was.
And were you able to determine whether or not that particular device had been plugged into the Asus tower?
Yes, I was, and it was plugged in.
Okay. Now, there was a subsequent search warrant some days later and a discovery of another Western Digital hard drive. And I don't know if you were part of this search warrant or if it ultimately, this piece of evidence made it to your unit or not.
Yes, I was not at that particular search warrant, but that piece of evidence did come to our lab for examination.
And, sir, this was a second and separate Western Digital hard drive, is that correct?
Yes, it was almost the same. It was a Western Digital My Passport, 1 terabyte in size external hard drive.
And were you able to make any connection with that hard drive and the Asus Tower computer?
Yes, sir, I was, and that was also plugged into the Asus computer.
Okay. Now, as it relates to the two Western Digital Passport hard drives, was there any, characterization or between the two of them, was there anything unique or of substance for your work?
Yes, sir, there was.
What was that?
Both of them contained, they weren't totally identical, but it would be, if you were to back up your computer or save a number of files and folders from your hard drive in case your computer crashes. External hard drives are usually used for that reason, to save something that's important, because computers do end up crashing, as some have experienced, and you can't get your data. So a lot of people use an external device like this to keep things that are important to them in case the computer does crash.
Okay. So let's talk about some content now. And I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was some content of interest, and we'll talk about not the second hard drive, but the first hard drive. There was some content of interest on that first hard drive. Is that correct?
Yes, there was.
Now, can you in a general sense, describe to the jury what type of, I guess, videos that were of interest to investigators that were located on this particular hard drive?
Yes, there was several thousand, tens of thousands of user-created folders and subfolders that were created, and inside those folders were images and videos. They were, the nature of those videos were murder videos, kidnapping videos, abduction videos, sexual assault, rape videos. There was thousands and thousands and thousands of those type of videos on these external hard drives.
Now, is that something, sir, that you can just, I mean, look, I guess the best way to ask this question of you is, how does one find these types of videos? Because I'm assuming, based on your experience and your work, this is not your, what I would classify as your typical porn video. Is that accurate?
That is correct. There was a large amount of pornography on those external hard drives, but this collection was the largest I've ever seen of murder, kidnapping, abduction, sexual assault that were extremely graphic videos that had been saved onto these devices.
And where does one find that?
Most of them are available on websites, internet websites where you can go to. In this case, I was able to look at internet history on the computer and some saved web pages that showed a number of websites that had been visited several times. These websites included the website rapelover.com. rapexxx.com. There was a heavy/r.com website. And those websites I've run across before. Another one is called gore.com. And they host and keep on their website a lot of these type of videos that show actual murders. Some are staged murders. They show kidnappings, abductions. They're very graphic and gruesome videos that you can download to your computer if you want to.
Now, obviously, you indicated, I think, in some of your initial testimony that as part of your responsibility, you read through police reports and kind of get a general sense of the investigation, what investigators are working on.
That is correct.
And did you do that in these cases? In other words, did you get an idea of what investigators were working on?
Yes, sir, I did. We had a briefing prior to the search warrant at the defendant's house with a number of different departments that were working on this case, and they briefed us to the information relating to Jeffrey Willis and some of the information and case facts involved in the cases that they were working.
So, and Mr. McCarthy, you talk about thousands and thousands of these videos. Part of your responsibility to look through all that?
It is, yes.
And in this particular case, did you view just about or all the videos contained in these folders?
I did. I viewed all the videos, all the images. There were a number of stories that were saved onto this drive that I read through, and it took several hours. There was literally tens of thousands and over 100,000 images of both between pornographic images and videos, murder videos, dead people, abduction, kidnapping was the general theme.
Now, going back to the monitor in front of you, in your view of those videos, were you made aware of some of the things that investigators discovered in the search of the defendant's van?
Yes, I was.
And as you saw, and I'm showing you, this is People's Exhibit 20. In the videos that you were able to observe, sir, did you see items such as these in those videos?
I did. All those items in this particular picture were seen in those videos. There were several of these rapes, abductions, and murders that involved restraining the female, and they involved the use of handcuffs, ropes, chains, and that hook-type instrument you see was even involved in a sexual assault in one of the videos, where that was placed inside the victim as she was sexually assaulted.
The People's Exhibit 21, this ball gag, was that part of some of the videos that you observed?
Yes, it was. It was in a number of different videos, pornographic, abduction, kidnapping, rape, murder-type videos where this instrument was used on a female victim and placed the ball in her mouth with the black straps around her head to prevent screaming and prevent the person from being able to be vocal. So that was used in a number of different times in these videos.
Now, excuse me. People's Exhibit 25, which was a handgun. You described these videos as including murder as part of them. And I'm assuming, well, I guess I won't assume, were there different methods of accomplishing that task being done in all these videos?
Yes, there was a number of different means used to murder and incapacitate these female victims. A gun was used in several of them where the victim was shot. Some of the other different means of committing these acts were strangulation, drowning, stabbing, burning, hanging. There was a number of them where the suspect used a plastic bag and suffocated the victim by putting the bag over their head and tying tape around the neck, and you would see the victim grasping for air until that female passed away.
Now, you had indicated in part of your direct testimony here that you discovered, or you were able to discover, along with these abduction, torture, rape, kill videos, also some, what I guess we'll describe as your garden variety pornography. Is that safe to say?
Yes, there was a large collection of adult and child pornography that had been saved. Mr. Willis went. His collection was so large on these devices that he categorized and titled his folders on the different means of murder. So he had a subfolder, user-created subfolder.
I'm going to object. This response is not responsive to the question. I believe counsel asked if there was garden variety pornography on this, and this description is not responsive to that question.
Okay. Just, I guess, let's answer that question
The
first.
objection will be sustained. Let's scratch the answer from the jury. At this point, the jury will ignore the answer, and you can start over.
I'll start over. Let's start with the basic question, and I think you kind of answered that in the first part of your answer, where we've got what you've described as the abduction, torture, rape, kill, pornography, and what I've classified as, for lack of a better way to describe it, garden variety, or what we would think of as adult pornography. And there was some of that as well.
There was, yes, sir.
Now, so I have two questions for you, and I'll jump back to where I think the answer you were trying to give. But my first question is, if you were to, I guess, compare the amounts. In other words, we talking about equal amounts? We talking about more of the adult pornography versus the kid pornography? How would you, based on the fact that you observed all this, how would you classify it?
The majority of it was murder, kidnap, abduction videos.
Now, I think, and this was down the line here with some of my questioning, but obviously, well, let me ask you this. In your view of that, was it just kind of scattered? In other words, sometimes when you pull up video files, you get the clips, and you'll see thousands of these little clips, and you have to kind of figure out, do I want to see this clip or do I want to see that clip, because they're not organized. Was that the case on these passport? Was there a method of organization?
There was a method of organization, yes.
And what was that?
The folders and subfolders were titled as to what type of videos were inside those folders and saved. So the user created a title for those folders and subfolders, and many of them were titled. One example that was titled murder, and then there was subfolders under the different types of murder.
Now, in your view of this item, did you also find things related to Jessica Haringa?
Yes, I did.
And what did you find related to her?
There was a folder titled VICS, V-I-C-S.
And, well, before we get to that, and I probably should ask a little bit more specific question, and you can, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but there exists a folder within this storage device containing a news story.
Yeah.
A news story about Jessica.
Yes, there was.
And where did you find that?
That was in a folder called Miscellaneous, and it was a saved web page, complete web page that is saved in that folder about Jessica Haringa.
And I guess when you say complete web page, we're talking about a news story. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I guess can you describe maybe the effort it takes to do that? I mean, is it as simple as just saving the page, or are there steps you have to go to in order to have that link saved forever?
There's 3 or 4 steps that you have to do with your internet browser to save a complete web page on a computer. So it depends on the browser you're using, but there's still a few steps that you need to do in order to save that page. In
your experience, and I'm sure you've dealt with quite a few news websites in your line of work, is it typical that news agencies archive a lot of that stuff?
They do. Typically, news websites have that information available for years afterwards. Google archives everything. There's different archive websites that save all the stories, all the information that's typically on these type of websites.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about your discovery of a folder titled Jessica. And did you find that on this device as well?
Yes, I did.
And you talked in your opening about metadata and dates and whatnot. What was significant about that particular folder that you discovered?
The date of that folder was created on 4/26 of 2016.
So essentially the 3-year anniversary of her disappearance?
That is correct.
And was there anything in that folder of significance?
Yes, there was. There was a number of images, a Word document inside that folder.
Okay. Images of Jessica herself, or
it was not Jessica Haringa in those images. However, the images were of a female with blonde hair that I would estimate between 20 and 30 years of age.
Okay. And were these pornographic or regular images?
These were semi-nude type images that appeared that they came from a a Craigslist or Backpage type advertisement for escorts, a prostitution type of a website that was saved.
Now, excuse me. Did you also find an Excel spreadsheet from 2013?
Yes, I did.
And what was the significance of that Excel spreadsheet as far as it relates to this investigation?
It was a spreadsheet that was titled 2013, and the contents were Mr. Willis had created this spreadsheet of different purchases that he made, and he logged the dates, the business that he went to, and the amount of money that he spent.
And any of those businesses include the Exxon gas station on Sturgeon?
Yes, they did, sir.
Was it more than one?
There were several of them that showed purchases made at the Exxon.
Now, again, sticking with some of your work, did you also discover, I guess what I'll classify maybe as some homemade videos?
Yes, sir, I did.
And in particular, videos related to some neighbors of the defendant.
Yes, I did.
What was that, sir?
There was a folder titled Homemade, and inside that folder were several videos that showed the first house to the south of Mr. Willis and showed the people that were living there. Both the video showed when they were outside the home and also while they were inside the home.
And in particular, the videos inside the home, were they taken during the daytime or at night?
They were taken at night.
And were they taken, for example, cameras these days, if I stand at my front door, I can kind of zoom I can zoom and get a good shot of my across the street neighbor's yard. Are we talking about that or something else?
The nighttime videos were from very close to a bedroom window of that house. You can see that the blinds are closed, where there's space in between the blinds, and you can see that the filming is being taken place directly outside a bedroom window of that house.
And filming what, sir?
Filming young women taking their clothes off, changing clothes. They were at night. They were in the process of removing their clothes. At different points, they were semi-nude or nude as they were being videotaped.
And from your experience, Mr. McCarthy, are we talking, when you say young women, are we talking, late teens, early 20s, or younger than that?
There was children, both under 18, and then there was also young adults that I would classify in the 20 to 30 age group.
Okay. Now, in that same, I guess I'll ask you, in that same subfolder, was there a video, what I would consider to be like a surveillance video of a woman by the name of Michelle Slatella?
Yes, there was.
And what was that about?
That was a video that was taken. You can tell the person that's taking the video is inside a vehicle because you can see some vehicle interior parts of a vehicle. That the video is taken at night and is taken in a parking lot. It's a surveillance type of a video that is being recorded by somebody inside a vehicle with people walking through a parking lot.
Did it appear as though the people being videotaped knew? I mean, in other words, were they playing to the camera, or did it appear as though they had no idea what was going on?
It appeared they had no idea that they were being videotaped. They never looked directly at the camera or looked like they were being suspicious or being followed or being stalked. They did not appear to have any idea.
Now, in your work, did you also discover some what I guess I'll classify as homemade videos at high school or middle school swim meets?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you describe for the jury what you found there, please?
They were inside a folder. I believe the folder was called BOTM, and inside that folder there was thousands, I believe approximately 15,000 videos that were taken with a couple different cameras that were of swim meets and water polo events at area schools. These schools included high schools from Muskegon County, Kent County, Ottawa County, and there were subfolders that were titled with the initials of those schools. So it was obviously different matches of swim meets and water polo events of one school versus another. And there was thousands of videos inside those subfolders.
Now, certainly people take videos of sporting events all the time, but was there something about these videos that, again, was of concern or piqued your interest as an investigator?
Yes, there was.
What was that, sir?
They were taken with a special filter, a night vision type filter, even though they were taken inside a school building. They were taken with a special filter that made it look like you were looking through the girls' swimsuits. The focus of those videos were all on their breasts, on their buttocks, their groin area. You don't see any of these girls that are videotaped in the event themselves in the swimming pool. They are all taken outside the swimming pool, and the focus of those videos is on their private parts. And with this night vision filter that was being used, you can tell that the camera information from those videos, and they're focused on the buttocks of the girls, their breasts. You don't see their faces in several of them, and they're outside the pool. It's not a video of the event itself, and there's over 15,000 of those.
Now, were you able to determine the source or the camera of that? Was that something that had been collected either by you or by other investigators in this case?
Yes, it was collected by other investigators.
Okay. And that camera came from, do you recall?
I believe it came from the vehicle that Mr. Willis was stopped in.
So one of the two cameras, and I'll show you here, because Exhibit 17. Excuse me. One of the two cameras confiscated from the vehicle.
Yes, that is correct. They were Sony digital cameras. They had a small hard drive, 40 gigabyte hard drive inside them for storage, and there was two different cameras that were very identical, similar in nature.
Okay. Let's talk about, you kind of had mentioned it. Now I'd like to kind of go there. Let's talk about your work finding this particular file, the VIX file. You found this file located where?
This was on the Western Digital external hard drive that had been plugged into Mr. Willis's Asus computer in his bedroom.
Okay. And were you able to determine...
Excuse me just a minute. Can all the jurors see what he's got up here? Can everybody see everything okay? Is there anybody that can't see, please raise your hand. Would you like to move down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, I forgot to let everybody know, so I apologize. Okay. This VIX folder, were you able to determine when the actual folder was created?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. And how were you able to determine that?
Folders are created. They remain. They create a date stamp of that folder, so we're able to look at the actual creation date of that folder.
And when was that VIX folder created?
That folder was created on 7/1 of 2014.
And again, I know you're familiar with dates on all these investigations. That date was significant to which investigation?
That was
closest to which investigation?
That was significant to the Rebecca Bletch investigation.
That was what, a day or two after her death?
That is correct.
Now, within that VIX folder, what did you find?
There was two subfolders inside the actual VICS folder. Those subfolders, as you can see in the slide, there's actually three subfolders. Excuse me. The first one is the JLH parentheses DZ13. The second folder you see is the RSB parentheses FZ plus C14, and then the third folder is called scans, SCANS.
Now, excuse me, were you able to determine, I'm going to focus in on, let me ask you this question first, because for the RSB file, were you able to determine what RSB stood for?
Yes, those were the initials for Rebecca Sue Bletch.
And at some point in time, did you try to figure out what the code or whatever that is in those parentheses, what that was all about?
Yes, we were able to determine that.
Okay, and could you describe for the jury how you figured that one out?
Well, we spent a couple days after looking at that folder, after we found it right after the search warrant. We took the items back to the lab and looked at them, and obviously that folder popped out to us as something to look into. We at first did not understand what the FZ plus C14 was when we just looked at it, but once we sat down and what we did was we just exchanged the letters for numbers, and A being 1, B being 2, C being 3, up to the letter Z in the alphabet, which is 26, and we replaced the letters with numbers to decode that.
And so in the Rebecca Bletch folder, then FZ plus C14, what does that stand for?
The F would equal 6, the Z would equal 26, and then the letter C would be 3. So we looked at that, and it would show 6, 29, 26 plus 3 of 14. So the decode of that would be 6, 29 of 14.
And that was significant for Miss Bletch because of what?
That was the day she was murdered.
Now, on the other, focusing now on the GLH subfolder, similar code, DZ13?
Yes.
Gave you what?
Well, the initials, obviously, Jessica Lynn Herringa, and then DZ, the D giving us 4, the Z giving us 26, and then the 13 would equal 4 April 26 of 2013.
Okay. And that was the date she went missing?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, were you able to determine when that subfolder was created, the JLH DZ13 folder?
Yes, the subfolder was created on 1/14 of 2014.
Okay. Now, in the JLH subfolder, there were two other, I guess, what we call those subfolders, or?
Yes, they were subfolders.
Okay.
Folders within folders.
Now, I'm assuming that you kind of unpacked all the subfolders. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And obviously I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Rebecca Bletch subfolder, but People's 88, does that look like kind of an overview of what was found in that folder?
Of the Rebecca Bletch
Yes, sir.
folder?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
that is correct.
Okay, and it appears as though there's some photographs of Miss Bletch. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And it looks like maybe some of the wanted posters that were put up, correct?
That is correct.
Now, were there any photographs that weren't necessarily Rebecca, but maybe looked like her?
Yes, there was.
And what was that?
That was the photograph, the second one on the top row.
You gotta
from
stick
the
there.
from the left
McCarthy.
would be this photograph right here. I believe it's titled 123.1.3.jpg, which was a saved photograph of a female, as you can see, on what appears to be a bed with a bra and underwear on.
Okay. When you, all right, People's 89. What are we looking at in this slide?
This would be one of the subfolders that were created by the user within the original JLHDZ13 folder. So this is a subfolder titled JLH, and those are two files that were saved inside that subfolder.
Now, were the images of Miss Herringa or not?
They were not.
But could you describe? Because I'll be honest with you, Mr. McCarthy, I did not include anything pornographic in my slide presentation. Can you describe, I guess, what the female, if it is a female, in these images looks like and what's happening?
Sure. In the video file that is this file right here, 735322, very beautiful blonde insert tampon, is a video that is of a young blonde-haired female. She's naked on a bed, and it's a pornographic video of her putting a tampon inside her vagina.
And the other, I guess the other file located in that folder?
Yes, would be this, which is the saved web page with Haley Scott gets BBC from a toysoldier.html. Now, when you save a web page, it creates two different files. When I clicked on that and I get an HTML file is a saved complete web page on the internet that you would do on a computer. When I clicked on that web page, you can go to that web page without actually being on the internet. You don't have to have a Wi-Fi connection or an internet connection because the page has been saved out. So when I clicked on that, it brought me to a pornographic website that had been saved.
Okay. Excuse me. Now there are two. So this is this in the first JLH, I guess subfolder? If I go back to my diagram here.
That is correct.
All right. So you're finding this, I guess, and I'll use my pointer in that subfolder right here. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, outside of those, that what you just described, was there anything else contained in this subfolder right here? This one right here.
No, other than those two items, that was it.
Okay. The next subfolder is labeled what?
Is labeled JLH.
And this is People's Exhibit 90. This is what's contained in that particular subfolder?
That is correct.
All right. Now, this is People's Exhibit 91. Was that contained within that subfolder as well?
Yes, it was.
And these are images of what?
These are images of Jessica Haringa, and I believe family.
Okay, it looks like images of her and her son.
That is correct.
Okay. And I guess there's a, I don't know if this was a collage, a picture collage, but it looks like this was pulled off of Facebook. Is that?
Yes, from the description at the bottom there, the www.facebook.com, find Jessica Haringa would be saved if you took a screenshot of that Facebook page.
Okay. Exhibit 92, did you also find this in that subfolder?
Yes, this was another saved image file that was saved as an image in that subfolder.
Okay. People's Exhibit 93. What are we looking at here?
This was another image that was saved in that subfolder, that was saved in the root directory of the VIX folder and the subdirectory of JLH.
Okay. Exhibit 94.
Yes, that is another saved image of Jessica that was in that subfolder.
Okay. People's Exhibit or Proposed Exhibit 95.
Again, an additional image that was saved in that subfolder of Jessica Haringa.
All right. People's Exhibit 96.
Yes, this was saved as I believed it was a PDF file that was saved in that subfolder, and it is the missing kidnapped flyers for Jessica Haringa that were saved within that subfolder.
Okay. People's Exhibit 97.
Yes, that is another image of Jessica Haringa saved within that subfolder.
Okay. Excuse me. People's Exhibit 98.
An additional image of Jessica Haringa saved within that subfolder.
Now, besides the several images of Miss Haringa, and it appears as though maybe Decoded Dyer, as well as her son, were there other, I guess, images as well that may or may not have been Miss Haringa?
Yes, there was.
And the images in that subfolder that were not Miss Haringa, how would you classify those images?
They were pornographic images in another subfolder. Within those subfolders, this was titled JH, and inside that subfolder were 3 pornographic images of a nude or semi-nude female with blonde hair.
And I think I forgot to ask you this question, excuse me, when we were talking about the tens of thousands of videos that you poured through. I'm assuming they all involve women as victims. Is that safe to say?
Yes, most of the pornography and the murder, rape, kidnapping videos were all women.
Okay. And could you describe for the jury how a majority of those women had looked? I mean, their general appearance.
The general appearance of most of those women depicted were white females between 20 and 30 years of age that had blonde hair.
Now, you also, okay. So essentially what we've gone through here is what you kind of unpacked in the JLH subfolders, those 3.
That is correct.
Okay. Let's talk about another discovery we made, and I'm calling it a password document. Do you recall making that discovery?
Yes, sir.
And so let me ask you this question. I would imagine that in the work that you do, is it common for you to come across devices that are password protected?
Yes, sir, it is.
And are you able, is there a way for you, or do programs exist that allow you to try and recover those passwords or get access to them in some fashion?
Yes, there is. Just about every device you buy, a phone these days, you can't even set up without using a password. So we have some password breaking type software tools with phones and tablets that are able to get us around passwords or to identify the password that's being used. You know, with cybersecurity, almost everything is a password, including internet sites that you would use for email. You have to have a password. For a banking account, you have to have a password.
And in this particular case, were you able to, or did you discover Word documents that contained different accounts and passwords and usernames for those accounts?
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, all right, let's start with People's Exhibit 185.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Give me 1 second. Let me put it up on the screen for the jury here. There. Okay. What are we looking at here in People's Exhibit 185?
This was a password document that was saved on the digital media that I examined. It was titled Willis, all in capital letters, WILLIS, and it was a word processing document that ends in WPS, which is similar to a Microsoft Word document, an older style of word processing document that you would use on your computer to save a document.
Okay. And as you went through this particular document, did it appear to be, I mean, as you can see, some bank accounts, anything else?
It was a 3-page document. If you scroll down, you'll see several additional usernames and passwords. Several of them have Jeff Willis's name in them, and then assorted passwords for different banking accounts, different websites like eBay, PayPal, Walmart, email accounts for Yahoo, Hotmail, work username and password. There's a number of different account names and passwords.
Now, were you, I guess, were you able to, based on some of the other things, equate this to be something that the defendant had created?
Yes, this was created by Mr. Willis, and it was saved on the digital media that was in his possession in his bedroom.
All right. Now, did you discover a second and separate password document?
Yes, I did.
And what was the, I guess, what was the date of creation of that document?
The second document was called passwords1.doc, and that was created in 2015.
Okay. Based on your review of the two documents, what of significance did you discover?
Well, the first one was created, the Willis document was the first one that was created, and that was in 2010. The second one was created in 2015, and several of the accounts were the same accounts. However, the passwords had been changed in a number of them.
Okay. Let's start with the Fifth Third Bank account. It appears as though the account number for both documents is the same.
That is correct.
And in the 2010 document, the password is what?
The password in the 2010 document is E3R6I90N.
And were you able at all to determine where that password may have come from or what relevance it had?
Yes, I was.
And what did you discover?
That was if you take the letters and the numbers out, that would equate to Mr. Willis's daughter's first name and birth date.
Okay.
So
First name, Aaron, birth date of 3/6/90.
That is correct.
Okay. Let's switch over to the 2015 document, same account. The password changes. What does it change to?
That is correct. The password changed to J4L27H13.
And did the initials JLH have some significance for you?
Yes, for Jessica Lee Haringa.
Okay. Now, let's look at the First General Credit Union, just a couple down. In 2010, we can see the password was what?
On the First General Credit Union, on the first document
Yes, sir.
created,
Yes, sir.
the password is Q1W2E3R4.
And then in 2015, that password changes.
That is correct, and it changed to J4L27H13, which would be Jessica Lynn Haringa 42713.
Okay. And that password appears again, and I'm focusing in on the 2015 document, on an eBay account. Is that correct?
That is correct. On the 2015 document, the account name is God Part 2, and the password was changed to J4L27H13 on the 2015 document.
And similar, the Yahoo account?
That is correct. That was also changed to J4L27H13.
And that there were two accounts, one under, I don't even know how you, I guess it's Jeff Willis spelled backwards.
It is Jeff Willis spelled backwards.
Okay, and account two is, I guess he was a Hillary Clinton fan, Hillary in 08.
Yes.
We see the Hotmail account. Is that, again, in 2015, does that password change?
Yes, that changes from the 2010 document of the A7 and changes to J4L27H13.
Also, a Gmail account changed as well.
That was actually not on the first document, so that was a new email account that he had created, and that password, again, is the J4L27H13 for the snarf69 Google Gmail account.
Okay. Does that kind of depict all the password changes?
Yes, there was 5 accounts that were changed from 2010 to 2015, and then 1 additional email account in the 2015 document.
Thank you, Mr. Hills.
Yes, sir. All right. You've got 185 in front of you. This is 186. Do both of those documents reflect the testimony you just gave on the 2 password documents that you discovered?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Give me 1 second here, Mr. McCarthy. Your Honor, I would first move for the admission of exhibits 87 through 98. Those are the photographs.
No objection, Your Honor.
87 through 98 are received.
And then, based off of, Mr. McCarthy's testimony, exhibits 185 and 186.
No objection, Your Honor.
Received.
Thank you, Judge. I have no further questions.
The Detective McCarthy?
I'm a civilian with the Michigan State Police,
Oh.
retired detective.
Mr. McCarthy.
That would be
Good afternoon,
be
sir.
fine.
You've just spent more than an hour testifying as to the results of your investigation, some of the stuff that you found yourself and during a search warrant, some more materials that were provided to you that you reviewed and testified to this afternoon. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you testified to photographs, videos, passwords, files, notes. And my question is this. As they pertain to Jessica Herringa, did you find any photograph, note, password, file, or any other material created and placed on my client's computer prior to April 26, 2013, when Ms. Herringa started to appear on TV?
I did not know.
Okay. So everything that you found in regards to Ms. Herringa came after the posters went up, the Facebook postings, and the television and news coverage. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You mentioned way back when we first started this, Mr. McCarthy, and I don't know if you'll need it or not, back at the prelim, and I believe it was in this matter, you mentioned that you found several hundred videos of this type of rape, kill porn that you were talking about. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
Okay. But today you've testified to tens of thousands.
Yes, there was.
Okay. So how do you explain the difference? Did you just misspeak back there or here, or do you recall now that there were a multitude more videos than you testified to the first time?
I guess it depends on the device I was testifying to.
Okay.
As far as some of the devices had, an example, a thumb drive just had 2 or 3 videos. Other devices, his computer had maybe 100. Pertaining to the Western Digital external hard drive, there was tens of thousands.
Were you able to definitively identify Jessica Herringa on any of the rape, kill videos that you described?
No, sir, I was not.
Were you able to definitively identify Jessica Herringa on any of the homemade videos, the videos at the gym, the videos of the pool, the video of the neighbors, the video of Michelle Natola? Were any of those folks positively identified as Ms. Herringa?
No, they were not.
The photographs and exhibits 87, I think, through 94, or approximately thereof, those pictures of Ms. Herringa, were any of those photographs, were you able to determine, were all those photographs available online either through the media or through Facebook or some other means by which they might be gathered?
I can't testify to where exactly they came from. I'm not aware.
Were you able to identify any photograph of Ms. Herringa that my client possessed that, quite frankly, let's face it, he shouldn't have had? In other words, did he take a picture of her in the store? Did he take a picture of her at Myers? Did he take a picture of her at the swim meet?
There was none that I found.
Okay. And you did find that he'd been in the gas station making purchases with that list of that he created, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. We talked about notes and photographs and files and that sort of thing, but as far as Ms. Herringa is concerned, were there any letters or writings or notations that were on those computers created by any person prior to Ms. Herringa becoming the person she's on TV and video and whatnot, TV and radio and in the news, I should say.
There were saved stories, but they didn't pertain to Miss Herringa.
Okay. I think I'm running. Let's see. I'm going to ask you a question, and first of all, I need to know if this is even something that you can answer. It may be outside your area of expertise, but you have been in law enforcement for how long before you started working at MPD?
Over 25 years.
Okay. And this is my source is TV, so you can take that with a grain of salt. Okay. Whenever they show these things on TV, these killer situations, or not whatever, but a lot of times they'll mention that the person they suspect kept trophies. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Something personal that they could identify with their victim, something they couldn't have gotten online, sort of thing. In your search of any of these documents, did you find anything like that? Did you find any like trophies that might have been collected by my client or by anyone else?
I would consider the VIX folder a trophy.
Okay.
And the subfolders and pictures and images and similar people that look like Jessica that were saved, yes.
Okay. All of which was gathered after Ms. Herringa started to appear on the television, right?
That's,
all those folds. Okay.
That's correct. That folder was created.
One moment. You mentioned I think it was the stuff of interest in this particular case, the porn, the kiddie porn, the VIX files, all that stuff. Was that all that was on that computer, or was there other matters of personal interest, such as my client's family or his dog or that sort of thing? Did you find any of that stuff?
On his computer, there was images, videos of Mr. Willis, his wife, his child. Yes.
Thank you. One moment. The porn stuff. That was the porn stuff and the rape kill stuff. That was all on the separated hard drive?
They were on a couple of the external hard drives, those My Passports, and then a Kingston thumb drive.
Okay. The ASUS itself, the tower computer, was any of that stuff on there?
I believe one of the password documents was also on there, but the porn was not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. I appreciate it.
You're
Just
welcome.
a couple follow-up here, Judge. But those two passport hard drives had been plugged into the ASUS computer.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And the one thing that maybe you answered this and maybe you didn't, but I just want to make sure, you've been doing this for a while, this computer analyzing kind of stuff, and I'm sure you've come across a lot of different passwords and whatnot through that experience. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
In your opinion, in your experience, when you've come across passwords, have they been just insignificant, or do they carry some significance?
No, they carry some significant. People usually have so many passwords they have to remember it by something. An example of this would be your firstborn child's date of birth, or your child's name, something that is significant to you, so you can remember. So many things are password protected these days, and most of the time we can after we either recover the password or sometimes even guess the password, it ends maybe in the last 6 numbers of that person's social security number, maybe the last 6 numbers of cell phone number, 4-digit number of their address or 6-digit number of their address, something that meant something to that person so you can remember it when it comes to passwords, just because of all the different banking sites, the internet sites, the email addresses, phones, tablets, all demand passwords these days, and they have to be something that you can remember them by.
Great. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, Judge.
One moment, please. Okay. Fifth Third. Where's the Fifth Third account? Ah, there. Okay. All right. No.
You want the other one?
That's the one. Thank you much. All right. Mr. McCarthy, you mentioned that's what you mentioned that you were able to deduce what those numbers mean, what that count, the password. I'm chopping this up and doing a very poor job of it. You were able to look at those letters and numbers, and you were able to deduce what you believe that code is for.
That is correct.
Okay. Was that ever confirmed to you by anyone? In other words, you believe that's Jessica Herringa, JH is for Jessica Herringa. Was that ever confirmed to you by my client or by the bank or by anyone else who might know?
They were not confirmed to me by the bank or your client.
Okay. Would you take a look up there at the J412, was it J4L?
It's a small L, yes.
27H13. Okay? J could stand for Jessica, correct?
Yes.
But it might also stand for Jeff.
It could,
Correct?
yes.
If my client has 4 brothers, that would stand for the 4. That could stand for 4, correct?
It could, yes.
Okay. 27, do you know how old my client's father was when my client was born?
I do not.
If my client's father was 27, then that 27 might stand for his age at the time of my client's birth, correct?
It
It might, okay.
Might.
The H is his grandfather's nickname is Ham. So Ham and H might stand for the Ham, correct?
It could.
It could. And the 13 is for 1913 for when Ham, the grandfather, was born, correct?
I don't have any idea.
Oh, I know you wouldn't know, but that would satisfy all the digital numbers and the letters that you've deduced means Jessica Herringer, correct? I mean, that would satisfy all. I mean, it counts for all the numbers and
If that
letters.
information is correct, that's the first time I heard
Okay.
that information.
Oh, and I forgot. The small L is might that L stands for. What is the L? Did you think L stands for? What did you deduce it stands?
Lynn.
Lynn. It might also stand for Lawrence, which was my client's father's name. Correct.
I don't know his father.
You wouldn't know, but no one's confirmed your deduction. That's what I'm getting at, correct?
Other than those letters and numbers mean something to me.
Okay.
Judge, I don't have any other questions.
Can we stand down?
I wasn't sure if you were sure.
It's Carlson.
Okay. People of the state of Michigan call Clifford Barron to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please have a seat. State and spell your name, please.
My name is Clifford Barron, Clifford Baron.
Good afternoon, Mr. Barron.
Hi.
Where do you work, sir?
Herman Miller.
And back in 2013, were you working for Herman Miller?
Yes.
In what shift, sir?
Third.
Now, do you know a person by the name of Jeffrey Willis?
I do.
And how do you know the defendant?
He was my high-low driver.
So he worked the same shift as you?
Yes.
And same area?
Yes.
And was this true back in 2013?
Yes.
Now, I want to go back in time to April 20, I guess it'd be April 28th, if I got my math right. Yeah, April 28th, 2013. Did you work third shift that night?
Yes.
And did the defendant work third shift that night?
Yes.
Now, could you describe for the jury when you saw the defendant for the first time that night, what did you observe?
He had scratches on his face, on his hand, and on his arms.
Now, were any of the scratches particularly deep, or
Yes.
which one?
Well, he had one big deep one on his hand, and then he had two big ones on his left arm,
Okay,
and then the one on his face. It was pretty good.
okay. I mean, could you tell whether or not they had been bleeding, or were they bleeding?
Oh yeah.
Yes to. Well,
Yes.
let me break that question up. Were they bleeding at the time you saw them?
Oh no.
But did it look as though they had been bleeding before?
Yes.
Now, I know probably Mr. Johnson's going to ask you this question, so I'm going to ask it first. How are you sure or certain that you saw these injuries on that Sunday night? I mean, that date in particular.
My anniversary date is the night that she was abducted, and so it's always been sketched in my mind pretty deep there. And then when I got back to work that day, when I seen the scratches on him, he made a big deal about it.
Okay. Did you say anything to him about it, or
Yeah.
even reference Jessica Herringham?
Yes, I actually called it. I called him out on it. I was like, I know it's all a joke, but we all went to the gas station all the time, me and my buddies, and we're all like, oh no, you probably took her, or you probably took her, or whatever. And then when I seen him on the Jeep with all the scratches on him, I was like, Jeff was probably the one that did it. He's the one that looks like he got in a cat fight. And he blew up on me, and he was like, you can't say that, you can't accuse me, I'll go to the front office and tell. And it'd get you in trouble and get you fired. So I was just like, whoa, man, we're just like, messing around.
Did any of your other coworkers have the same reaction as the defendant when you guys were kind of?
No, not at all.
Now, did you ask the defendant how he obtained those injuries?
Yes, I did, because then it made me, it was like, I did. He said that he got him doing a brake job.
Doing a brake job.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Now,
Sorry.
Outside of Herman Miller, are you pretty familiar with vehicles?
I am.
Do you do your own mechanic work?
I do.
Have you changed brakes before?
Yes.
And have you ever received, or first and foremost, have you ever received those types of injuries, in particular on your face, from doing a brake job?
No.
And were there any other indications on his hands that may suggest otherwise as whether or not he had been repairing brakes that particular week?
It wasn't dirty. No fingernail dirty. It was cleaned up.
And,
I was like, I asked him about it.
okay, what did he say?
He just said that he washed them.
Okay, and again, in your experience, I mean, I'm sure you probably scrubbed your hands pretty good after a brake job. Did they come clean?
No.
100% clean?
No. Never.
Okay.
And he wouldn't have got scratches on his hands if he would have wore gloves, so.
Okay. Now, after that exchange, after you make notice of the injuries, you have that exchange where he, I guess, threatens to turn you into management.
Yes.
Did the appearance, or did something happen, or let me ask you this, did he do something about the injuries?
Yes.
What did he do?
He covered them up.
Okay, with what?
Just that white gauze stuff with some tape.
Okay. Was that same night or a different night?
This is the same night.
Okay. At some point in time when did law enforcement, after Mr. Willis was arrested, became a suspect in this case, did law enforcement come to you with a diagram to fill out?
Yes.
Okay. Handy what's been marked as People's 187. All right, I'll ask you to look in the right-hand corner there, Mr. Barron. Is that your signature?
Yes.
And is that the date that you wrote your signature?
Yes.
And is that the diagram you filled out?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Just for the record, Mr. Barron, the person that we're talking about, that you made these observations, is that person in court?
Sorry.
I threw a lot at you. Let me slow that down just a little bit. The individual, Mr. Willis.
Oh, yeah.
That you observed the injuries on that Sunday night. Is he in court today?
Yes.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing, please?
He's wearing a suit, blue suit, red tie.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witness as identified the defendant. I have no further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Barron.
Good afternoon.
Okay, did we meet last time?
Yeah.
Last time? Okay, all right. I'm Fred Johnson. I don't know if you remember. You mentioned that you see scratches.
Yes.
Okay. And did you work with Mr. Willis the day before? Do you recall?
No.
No, you don't recall, or you didn't work with him?
No, it was a Sunday.
Okay, so you did not work with him the day before?
No.
This was a Monday?
Sunday night.
Sunday, that's right, because you're third
Yeah.
shift, right?
Right. Monday.
Okay,
yeah.
so the day before actually would have been Saturday?
Right.
Okay. So you didn't work with him the day before. Do you know how experienced Mr. Willis is in changing brakes or auto mechanics?
He's not.
Who else was working with you on this particular case? You talked about you were laughing with the guys about well, you might have taken her or you might have taken her. Who are we talking about?
My buddy Ray.
This was 5 years ago. I get it, but just as best you can remember, who else was working that night?
Red or Michelle. A guy named Al, Tony.
And have you talked to them about that particular night? About those scratches?
No.
How long after that night were you first contacted by law enforcement? How long after that night were you first contacted by law enforcement?
It's in 9/19/16.
So about 3 years, 3 years and a couple months?
Yes.
You have to speak out loud because we're recording this.
Sorry.
That's all right. You don't do this for a living, right?
Right.
Right, okay. So about 3 years later, 3 years and 3 months later, you were contacted by law enforcement and they asked you about any recollections you might have had about that time frame. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you narrowed it down to that particular night, that particular weekend, correct?
Yeah, I know it was.
Okay. Do you remember what Mr. Willis was wearing that night?
T-shirt.
A t-shirt. Okay. And this was April?
Yes.
Okay. And is it warm in Herman Miller in April inside, working inside?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Because it wasn't this year, right?
Yes, it was.
It was still warm in Herman Miller, even
Yes.
as cold as it was outside?
Yeah, they got heat.
They got heat, okay.
Yeah.
All right, it's a factory?
Yes.
They heat the factory, though?
Yes, and you still use your fan on all night long.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, even in the wintertime.
And you noticed that his hands weren't dirty?
Yes.
And did he give you any other explanation as, well, I was working on the brakes or something like that?
That's what he told me.
Okay.
I didn't believe him because he don't do his own work on his cars.
Okay. So even at that point, you didn't believe that that was how he got the scratch?
No, I just thought maybe he got in an argument, fight with his woman, wife, and didn't want to talk about it.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
I have nothing else, Jim.
Okay, thank you. You can stand down. It's probably a good time to take our afternoon break. So have your next witness ready in 10 minutes, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
All done? You're all set.
Oh, sorry. I'll just take care of this after he's gone. 57, the diagram that Mr. Barron had testified to.
Oh, no objection.
I think it'll be received.
People of the state of Michigan call Sergeant Todd Baker to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Todd Baker.
Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Good afternoon.
What department do you work for?
City of Norton Shores.
And how long have you worked for the City of Norton Shores?
20 years.
And currently you hold the rank of sergeant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're assigned to what division?
Road Patrol.
Now, back on April 26, 2013, after Jessica Herringa went missing, did you become part of, or at least an arm of the task force that was formed?
Yes, sir.
And could you describe for the jury primarily what your role was intended to be?
My role at that time was on my days off. I would work the task force and we would run down tips that had been called in on the phones.
Okay. So, is it safe to say, Sergeant Baker, that, well, first and foremost, this event received a lot of publicity, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Both from a local level as well as a national level?
Yes.
And were there hotlines that were set up in order for people to call in to leave information?
Correct.
Now, and I assume also the county has and had at that time like a silent observer type tip line too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, from your memory, Sergeant Baker, how many tips came in as a result of this crime?
Thousands.
And if you could describe for us, kind of in general terms, was there a system set up in order to properly manage those tips coming in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what was that?
The call handlers would take tips. They'd write them up on tip sheets. They'd get prioritized, low, medium, and high, I believe. And then they would get passed out to the various investigators to go look into.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, you were a one-man crew. Were there other investigators that were assigned to do a similar duty?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you received your assignment, the tip that you were going to follow up on, would you investigate that tip?
Yes, sir.
And then, as a result, I mean, how would, I guess, the fruits of that investigation be recorded?
We would get a written tip sheet, and then we would follow up on it, and we would write down what we did on a sheet and turn it in with the tip sheet. And at some point, somebody else would enter that into the computer system.
Okay. Now, we say computer system, are we talking about the normal system that law enforcement uses in this county to make their police reports, or was it a different system?
It was a different system.
And was it solely tied to categorizing and keeping track of the tips and the investigation of those tips?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, when you would go out and investigate a tip and you take your notes, would that include, I think, like you said, what you did, correct?
Yes.
Who you talked to?
Excuse me, counsel. Officer, you're very soft-spoken. I can barely make out what you're hearing.
Okay.
Say. So if you could speak up just a little bit for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just going back over my questions, what you did, right? Correct?
Yes.
Who you talked to?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And if they said anything, whether you believed to be important or not, you wrote that down.
That is correct.
Now, you finish investigating a tip, you go back to the department, and then where would your notes go?
There was a tip basket, and we would put it back in the completed file.
Okay. And then were you responsible for typing that stuff in the system, or was there other folks assigned to that duty?
There was somebody else that was assigned to that.
Okay. So, and do you recall, Sergeant, how many tips did you investigate roughly in this investigation?
I have no idea.
I mean, was it a lot?
Yes.
Okay. And did you follow that process for each one of the tips you investigated?
Yes, sir.
And so ultimately, if we went back into the computer system that was housing all these tips, we could search by your name and see all the tips that you investigated.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. But the typing part obviously was not your responsibility. You just had to take legible notes.
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about what we're calling as tip 268. No problem. Take your time.
Thank you, Willis.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm handing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 188. Sergeant Baker, what does Exhibit 188 represent?
This was the tip 268 that Corporal Hair and I were given to look into.
Okay. Now, is that a handwritten version or a typed version of that tip?
This is the typed version of our findings.
Okay. And does it indicate what date you were assigned that tip?
It says 5/15, but I don't believe that to be accurate.
Okay. Is that the date that it was completed, maybe?
Could be.
Okay. Signed it earlier, but you got to it on 5/15?
No, I think we were there the 7th.
The 7th? Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm going to go with your memory. Now, that tip is in relation to, I guess, that tip came in and it offered information on who?
The tip was that a man named Willis frequents Starbucks on Harvey Street and drives a silver minivan.
Okay. And silver minivan was kind of an important detail at the time. Is that accurate, Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You kind of answered my next question, but when you were assigned to investigate this tip, did you go by yourself?
No, Corporal Hair was with me.
Okay. Excuse me. I'm going to show you here. Okay. This is People's Exhibit 26. Does that look familiar, sir?
Yes, sir.
Is that the house residence that you went to on the day that you went to investigate this tip?
Yes, it's Mr. Willis's house at 1842 South Sheridan.
Okay. And were you able to make contact with Mr. Willis on the date that you went to investigate?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Willis offer you to come inside his house, or where did you talk to him?
We knocked on the door, which is on the deck portion there, and Mr. Willis eventually answered the door and stepped outside and shut the door behind him.
Okay. And do you recall whether or not when Mr. Willis came to the door and opened the door, was there any other human being that you saw or heard prior to him closing the door?
Did not see anybody else inside.
Okay. Were you aware at the time or prior to you going to his house that he was in fact married at the time?
I did not know that when we went to his house.
Okay. Now, did you talk to Mr. Willis about the Jessica hearing a disappearance?
Yes, sir.
And what, if anything, let me ask you this. Did you ask him about his activities on April 26, 2013?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did he tell you?
He told us that he had been at the Exxon station, 1196 East Sternberg, where she was abducted from. He said he was there approximately 5 o'clock, and that he bought some mints, and he talked with Jessica, who he knew, for about 3 minutes, and then left the store.
Okay. Did you talk to him at all about his whereabouts in the evening hours on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what did he tell you about that?
He told us that after he left the store, that he went to Lang Sports, which I believe is 1066 East Sternberg, kind of behind the Exxon station, and played card games there from 5 to approximately 9:30 at night.
Okay. And then did he tell you after he finished playing cards where his whereabouts were that particular night?
He told us that he left Lang Sports Shop, exited out onto Sternberg, went northbound 31, and to his house. Got home about 9:45.
All right. And from 9:45, from the time period he got home at 9:45, could he account for his whereabouts then?
He told us that he stayed there till about 12:30, and we asked if anybody could collaborate that, and he told us no, that his wife Charlene was home, but she was sleeping at the time.
Okay. And did he indicate at all whether or not he left the house at 12:30?
Yes, sir, he did.
What did he say about that?
Said that he left the house about 12:30, went to his grandfather's vacant house. He said that his grandfather was deceased at 3038 Bailey, to get a board that he needed to fix his dog gate with.
Okay. Did he mention anything to you about going to get something to eat that night?
He told us that after he left the Bailey address, that he went to Taco Bell on Sternberg, and then proceeded back to his house after getting food at Taco Bell.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, as far as the defendant's timeline is concerned, when you talked to him in May of 2013, he was at the Exxon station around the 5 o'clock hour.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Purchased some items, talked to Jessica. Is that correct? Went and played cards at Lang's. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did so until about 9:30 that night.
Correct.
Got home at 9:45.
Yes, sir.
Stayed at home from 9:45 until, I'm assuming, 12:30 a.m. the next morning.
Correct.
At 12:30 a.m., he left his house and went to the 3038 Bailey residence.
Yes, sir.
And did he offer at all, or maybe you didn't ask? Did you? How long he was there?
I don't recall that.
Okay. And then, however long it took him there, left the Bailey address, went to, did he name a restaurant? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Taco Bell?
Taco Bell after that, and then went home?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as part of your investigation, and I'm assuming both you, who's taking the notes? Is it you? Is it Corporal Hair? Do you remember?
I took the majority of the notes.
Okay. And is Corporal Hair paying attention? Is he kind of watching the butterflies? What's he doing?
He was asking most of the questions.
Corporal Hair was?
Yes.
Okay. So, as part of your investigation, did you ask to see any items?
We asked him if he owned a firearm.
Okay.
He told us that he owned one .380 pistol. And we asked for his cell phone.
Okay. And did Mr. Willis provide to you on that day his cell phone?
No, sir.
Did he offer an explanation as to why?
He said that his wife wasn't home and she had his phone, that he would bring it into our department the following day.
So, if I understand correctly, because as part of your initial testimony, Mr. Willis told you his wife was home asleep.
No, sir.
No, sir, he didn't say that.
He told us the night that he left, she was at home asleep.
Gotcha.
When we were there talking with him, he told us that he was home alone.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your answer, I apologize. So the night that you're questioning about, when he left the house, he claimed, or he said that his wife was sleeping when he left?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. That's my bad. And so you did not get a chance to look at his cell phone that night?
We did not, no.
Okay. Did you get a chance to look at the van?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was the van parked at the residence?
Yes, parked in the driveway.
Okay. I'm going to show you just a series of photographs here, Sergeant Baker. Let's see. This is People's Exhibit 75. Does that look familiar?
Yes, sir.
Does that look like the van that you searched that particular day?
Looks like it.
All right. 76, the other side. Same question.
Yes, sir. Looks like it.
And then finally the rear view, 77.
That's the plate number that we ran through Lean that came back registered to Jeffrey Willis.
Okay. So that BJB 7771 was the plate you ran to get the registered owner and in fact came back to the defendant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell the jury what if anything, you observed or saw when you got a chance to look inside the van?
Mr. Willis let us look inside the van. It was very clean in there. The back portion, the carpeting looked like it had been washed, shampooed, vacuumed. We didn't notice any physical evidence at the time that we could see. We asked him about the cleaning. He stated that he had purchased the van in April from Flickham Auto Sales in Grand Rapids on Plainfield, I believe. And that when he got it, it was dirty, smelled of smoke, and he had just recently taken it back and they had detailed it for him.
Okay. At any point in time during the time frame, and I don't know if you recall, Sergeant Baker, how long would you say you were at the defendant's residence?
I would say we were probably there close to an hour.
Okay. At any point in time during that hour, did you get an opportunity to talk to the defendant's wife, Charlene?
We did not.
Did, as a result of the information that you were given, did you get an opportunity to at least take a look at what 3038 Bailey looked like?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, did you look inside? I mean, tell us what you did.
I went there to see if maybe we could see a pile of wood or something where a board had been removed from, or
Okay.
anything like that on the outside. Nothing looked disturbed. Windows were dirty. It was hard to see inside the windows.
Okay. So, difficult to make any observation,
Yes, sir.
and you didn't find anything disturbed, including like a pile of wood or something like that?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. In fact, when you were at the house, did Mr. Willis even offer to show you the wood that he had brought back from there?
I believe he did have a board there somewhere.
Okay. Did he show it to you?
Seemed like he did.
Okay. Oh, I apologize. One last question. The person that you interviewed, is that person in court today?
Yes, sir.
Could you point out and describe what he's wearing, please?
Mr. Willis there with the beard, looks like he had red tie and blue jacket on.
Thank you. Your Honor, let the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
It will.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Sergeant Baker, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson.
Have we met? Seems...
Just in passing.
Okay, all right. I'm Fred Johnson, and I'm going to give you the soft-spoken witness treatment, okay? And the soft-spoken witness treatment is I stand over here next to this last juror, so if I can hear you, I know he can hear you, okay?
Fair enough.
Nothing personal. Okay, how long have you been an officer of law?
27 years.
Okay. And it's your recollection that you arrived at Mr. Willis's house on May 7, 2013, correct?
That's what I believe.
Oh, okay. So that would have been 31 days in April, about 12 days after Ms. Herringham went missing, correct?
Correct.
All right. And at that time, you were part of the task force?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I assume the task force has briefings and you guys talk about what you're looking for, that sort of thing?
They did, but with my only being there on my days off, wasn't privileged to a lot of that information.
Okay, so you were doing this on your days off?
Yes, sir.
Were you in uniform?
No, plain clothes.
Okay. Do you remember whether or not anybody talked about looking for a town and country back in those days? Automobile?
Yes.
Okay. Was that in fact the silver town and country is what you guys were kind of looking for, sort of, kind of?
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. When Mr. Willis comes to the door, do you hear a dog barking? Do you recall?
Don't recall.
Okay. Were you ever able to determine whether or not Mr. Willis had a dog?
No, I did not.
Okay, because he mentioned having to fix the dog's kennel or whatever,
Correct.
but you never actually saw the dog?
I don't believe so.
And you don't remember if he was barking behind you or anything like that when Mr. Willis came to the door?
I don't.
Okay. Did Mr. Willis tell you that he worked the third shift and that it was not unusual for him to be up late at night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I would imagine why, did you ask him why are you going to fix the dog's kennel at 12:30 at night? Yeah. Anyone ask that question?
I didn't ask because we had talked about, I know what it felt like to work third shift.
Ah, okay. And you're the person taking notes?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you go into the house at all, Mr. Willis's house?
We did not.
Did you ask to?
Don't believe so.
Okay. Did Mr. Willis show you any telephone that time? In other words, did he show you that flip phone? Were you asked?
Don't
You don't recall?
No.
All right. Do you know if Mr. Willis ever delivered the telephone as he said he was going to?
I believe he did, sir.
And you look through the van, and it was just a very clean van.
Yes, sir.
Let's just keep on through. Now, could you put up the picture of Mr. Willis's home, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes. Are we looking from, is that the front of the house? Are we looking from the street?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I see there looks like a vehicle parked to, would be my right, your left side of the house. Is that the van we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I assume that's you know that, well, who the people on the porch, you have any idea who they are, or just has nothing to do with this? It has nothing to do with your visit, correct?
That has nothing to do with my business.
Okay.
No.
One moment, please. Sergeant. Excuse me. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. The reason why I asked you how long you've been officer is because part of your job is to be observant, I would imagine.
Yes, sir.
To look at things and observe things and make notes of things. Do you recall if Mr. Willis what the status of Mr. Willis's facial hair was? Did he have facial hair? Did he not have facial hair? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Do you recall whether or not you saw any scratches or any other abrasions, cuts, bruises on his face or any other parts of his skin that you could observe at the time?
I did not.
Would that have been a significant thing for you to have noted? Had you seen the man standing there with a bunch of healing scratches on his face, is that something that, as a police officer, you might have noted?
I'm sure I would have.
Okay, so the fact that is it noted anywhere in your police report?
No, sir.
So, given that reality, can we draw the conclusion that he didn't have scratches on his face on that day?
Objection, that calls for speculation, Judge.
No, I don't think it does. Just given what he's testified that he would have noted it.
Would you state the question again, please?
Yes, sir. Well, I'll have to say a couple of questions. The first question was, if he'd had facial scratches, is that something you would have noted for your notes? And he said yes.
Yeah.
And
that's
then,
no objection to that.
no, the next question is one with objection to it, Jim. Given the fact that you didn't note it in your notes, can you draw the conclusion that he didn't have scratches on his face on that day that you saw him, May 8th? That's the question for
The
you.
objection's overruled.
Given that you didn't see scratches on the face, or given that you didn't note scratches in your notes, can you draw the conclusion, or are you comfortable drawing the conclusion that Mr. Willis didn't have scratches on his face on that day that you saw him, May 8th, 2013?
I did not notice any scratches.
Thank you. One moment. Do you remember what he was wearing? Short sleeve, long sleeve?
I was thinking gray sweatpants.
How about on his upper body? T-shirt, long sleeves, a hoodie, shirt tie?
No, it wasn't shirt tie.
Did you go to the Bailey Street address?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall whether or not the place was secured?
Secured?
Locks?
I did not try the doors.
Were there any? You didn't try the doors, but did you notice if there were any? What do they call the master locks that you bolt padlocks? Thank you. Padlocks on the door. See, I need help. Thank you. Padlocks on the door.
That I don't recall.
Okay. Thank you. Now I think we're good. Thank you.
I don't have any further questions. I would move to admit Exhibit 188, which is the tip sheet,
Right.
No objection, Your Honor.
and then
Receipt.
Exhibits 75 through 77, which are the 3 van photographs.
No objection, Your Honor.
Received. You may stand down, officer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
People of the state of Michigan call Corporal Hair to the stand.
please raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please have a seat, state and spell your name.
Christopher Hair, ChristopherHare.
Good afternoon, Corporal Hair.
Good afternoon, sir.
Man, you guys are going shores must be soft talkers. I need you just to speak up just a little bit so the jury can hear you and so that Mr. Johnson can too. Okay?
Okay.
You don't have to be a rock star, but just a little bit louder.
Okay.
It could be because my ears are plugged up, so I apologize.
No problem.
How long have you been a police officer?
I believe I'm in my 23rd year.
And all with North Shores?
Mostly, yes.
Okay. And you hold the rank of corporal?
I do.
Currently assigned to what division?
Patrol.
And back on April 26, 2013, were you asked to be part of this task force involving the disappearance of Jessica Hair?
Around that time, I was.
Okay. And the Sergeant Baker just testified, so this is already an exhibit 188, tip 268. Do you recall being assigned with Sergeant Baker to investigate this tip?
I do.
Okay. And specifically, recall, and it's actually still on the screen here, going to 1842 South Sheridan to hopefully interview Mr. Willis.
I do.
Now, when you and Sergeant Baker arrived, did you make contact with anybody?
We made contact with Mr. Willis.
Okay. And when you made contact with Mr. Willis, did he allow you to, did you go inside and talk to him, or where did that conversation take place?
We met him at the door, and he exited the home, and we spoke with him on the porch.
Okay. That same porch that's being depicted in this photograph?
Yes.
Now, in your conversation with Mr. Willis, and I'm not asking this question disrespectfully, but were you paying attention?
I was.
And I don't know if you or Sergeant Baker was taking notes. Do you remember?
We both were.
Okay. Were you both asking questions?
We eventually, through the interview, both had asked questions, yes.
Okay. So in your memory, and I guess with the tip sheet, do you recall having a conversation with Mr. Willis about his activities on April 26, 2013?
I do.
Okay.
I did.
And in particular, do you recall what he said he did? Let's start first during the late afternoon, early evening hours.
Would you like me to give you the timeline that he gave me?
Please.
Okay. He was in the area of the Exxon station. He was went to the Exxon station about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He was going to go to a nearby card shop to play a card game. I think it was called Magic the Gathering. He was going to meet some friends there. He had been in the Exxon station for about 3 minutes, were his estimations, and he bought an item and left there and went and played the card game.
Did he indicate to you a couple of things? One, when he went to the Exxon station that afternoon, was Jessica Herringa working?
He said that she was.
And did he indicate to you and Sergeant Baker whether or not, I guess I don't want to say relationship, but whether or not this was a person, that being Jessica Herringa, that he was familiar with?
He knew her and he was familiar with her, but they didn't have a relationship.
Okay. Did he indicate to you how long he stayed playing cards?
He said he was at the card shop, playing cards until about 9:30 in the evening.
And did he tell you then where he went from there?
He told me that he drove home to his house on Sheridan.
This house that's in the picture?
Correct.
And in that conversation then, did he indicate to you and Sergeant Baker how long he was at home?
He said he was at home until about 12:30 in the morning, which would be the following date.
Okay. And did he account for his whereabouts from 12:30 at that 12:30 hour?
He said he left home and he went to his grandfather's house on at an address on Bailey and Norton Shores.
Okay. Did he indicate why he was going to this address on Bailey?
He did. He told me that he had to get a board for his dog kennel gate that he had to fix.
Okay. And after he accomplished that task, did he tell you and Sergeant Baker where he went next?
He said he went to Taco Bell on East Sternberg Road.
Now, and then after that, where did he go?
He told us he went back home.
Okay. Now, at some point in time during the conversation, Corporal Hair, did you become aware or were you made aware that Mr. Willis was married?
Yes.
And did you or Sergeant Baker inquire about talking to her at the time that you were there at the house?
I don't recall if we directly asked about speaking with her. I think we said we would like to. I don't think we asked him if he would allow us to speak with her. I think we just indicated that we may want to speak with her.
Okay.
Because of some of the statements he made while we were there.
Now, did Mr. Willis offer you an opportunity to speak with her on that day?
No.
Why?
He said he was home alone.
Okay. As part of this conversation, did that include asking to see any cell phones?
Yes. In the interview, we did ask if he had a cell phone and if we could see it.
Okay. And let me ask you, how did he answer the first question, whether or not he had a cell phone?
He said he did.
And then when you asked if you could see it, did he offer it to you?
He said he didn't have it with him at that time because his wife had it with her at work.
Okay. So you were not shown or offered a cell phone at any point in time?
No, I was not.
Okay. Now, again, as part of the investigation, obviously, a silver van was kind of important. Is that right?
Yes.
And did Mr. Willis own a silver van?
He did.
Okay. And did you get an opportunity to look at it?
Yes.
And can you describe for the jury what your observations were when you looked at that van?
From the exterior, we noted that there were no significant dents or any damage or anything like that. As we went to the interior of it, we noticed that it was pristine. It was cleaned.
Okay.
We asked him about it at that time, and he said that he had bought the van just shortly before that, and when he bought it, it was dirty inside, and he took it back to the dealership to have it detailed.
Okay. After that, sir, did you have any other business with Mr. Willis?
After that date?
No, I'm sorry. Bad question. After you finished inspecting the van, after you finished inspecting the van, did you have any other further conversation with him, or was your and Sergeant Baker's investigation over?
At that point, I believe we had asked our questions on the porch. The last thing we did was move to the van and looked inside.
All right. And do you recall going anywhere else after you left Sheridan? Did you and Sergeant Baker go anywhere else?
We did. We went to the address on Bailey in Norton Shores.
And were you able to discover anything of significance there?
No.
Did you get an opportunity to walk inside and inspect the interior of Bailey?
No.
Okay. Now, after that encounter, did you make any attempts to, I guess, talk to anybody that might have information to help corroborate what Mr. Willis had told you?
I have now learned and recall that I did make an attempt to make a phone call. I did make a phone call, actually.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I apologize, folks. I am finding a really nasty cold. Okay. that your voice?
Yes, it is.
We'll do an investigation. I spoke with the sheriff on it a while back, probably, I don't know, a month ago or something like that. I wonder if there's any way that we could speak with you, or if I can come and meet you, or you can meet us at the police department, get probably an hour or something like that, to solidify things up and set this up so that we can put this section of our case and move on. So, it's good. Again, I am Corporal Hair, H-A-R-E. I work in command until probably 4 o'clock in the gym. I appreciate the call back.
So, this voicemail, that's your voice?
Yes, it is.
And you're leaving a message for who?
Mrs. Willis.
Sharp.
Yes.
And if I heard it correctly, you left that message on June 2nd?
I didn't hear
No,
that.
I
I didn't.
apologize, but it was in June.
Correct.
Now, when you left that message, did you ever get a return phone call back from Sharp?
No.
At any point in time?
No.
Okay. And I know you've since learned as well, you made a subsequent phone call, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I recall.
Hey, Sean, this is Corporal Hair, and I trust police calling you back. We did some more investigation stuff, and I don't think we will need an interview from you unless you have something to tell us or any information you want to pass along. We kind of worked our way through and figured it all out without even having to speak with you. So unless you have anything else to add, we don't have to speak with you unless you want to speak with us. If you have any questions, we'll try to get in touch with each other. Corporal Hair, North Shores Police. It is 8:30 on the 6th of June, Thursday.
So that second phone call was June 6th?
Correct.
Okay. And again, after you left that second message, did you receive any type of phone call
No.
from either Shar or the defendant?
No.
Were you aware at all whether or not any of those messages were received?
I didn't even remember making the phone calls at the time, so no.
Okay.
I don't know if they were received or not.
Okay. And you were aware that investigators would later, some 3 years later, find the micro cassette in the defendant's shed at his home?
Yes, I learned that at, I believe, either the prelim. Actually, I think it was in a prior trial.
Okay. The person that you talked to, is he in court?
He is.
Did you point out the describe what he's wearing, please?
He's seated at the defense table in a dark suit and a red tie.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant. I have no other questions. Thank you.
All right. Corporal Hair, good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
You just testified that you called and you left a message for Mrs. Willis to call you back, but you never got a call back. Is that correct?
Correct.
Showing the phone records. Didn't call me. Let me, and what I was showing Mr. Hilson, Corporal, is I've got some phone records here that's your phone number was 231-733-2691.
That is the police department phone number.
Okay. The North Shores Police Department.
Correct.
Your police department.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the number you left for Miss Willis. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Speaking about this one here, this 106.4 at 7 a.m. for a minute 23. There's another one, I think it's this one here, at 7:10 for 1 minute 36 seconds. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, assuming I've got that, what I'm trying to talk about, Corporal, is I just showed you what a document that I told you is a phone record. Is that correct?
That's what you've told me.
And it purports to show calls to the phone number you gave Miss Willis on June 4th of 2013?
I don't know where those calls originate or where they're going. I see my department phone number
Okay.
and the time, but that's all I see.
Okay, so that is your department phone number.
Correct.
That is the number that you gave them, correct? Gave Miss Willis.
Yes. It's
Okay, all right.
what we just heard on the recording.
That's fine. Now, you said you called the home. Oh, I'm sorry, did I not get that? You called and left a message, correct? That's what we just heard on the 911 tape?
Correct.
On the 911 tape, the tape we just heard. Correct?
Correct.
All right. Do you know where that phone message went? In other words, did that go to somebody's cell phone? Did that go to a recording device? Do you know?
I do not recall what number I would have called.
Okay. But that was the number Mr. Willis gave you to the home. Or how did you get his phone number? That's a better question.
Through the interview, I'm sure I got both their phone numbers. I don't know that I did get a different phone number. I'm not sure.
Okay. But that was you leaving the recording asking Mrs. Willis to give you a call.
That we heard
Yes, sir.
as Prosecutor Hilson asked me. Correct.
All right. Cool. Let me ask you. When Mr. Willis came out of the house, do you remember whether or not you heard a dog barking?
I don't recall hearing a dog barking.
Okay. Does that mean that you don't remember? Well, does that mean you don't remember hearing a dog barking, or the dog might have barked but you don't remember?
I don't remember hearing a dog barking.
Okay. All right.
Best I could answer that.
All right. You're on the task force
I
at that time,
assisted, and yes.
and you were looking for a town and country at that time. Silver Town and Country.
A Chrysler, correct.
You're a clean-shaven man. My client has facial hair. At the time that you met him back in May 7th, 2013, do you recall the status of his beard?
I do not.
Do you recall whether or not you saw scratches on his face or on his arms or anywhere about his body? Scratches or bruises or any signs of a physical confrontation recently?
Nothing of significance to me. No.
Okay. The Bailey Street address. Do you recall? Was it locked? Do you recall?
Yes.
Was it padlocked? In other words,
I do not recall what type of
Okay.
locking mechanism there was. No.
All right. And my understanding, the windows were dark or obscured, and you weren't able to look inside.
Correct.
Thank you. One moment, please. Corporal Hair, thank you very much. I don't have any further.
Thank you.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corporal. You may stand down.
Your Honor, the people of the state of Michigan call Charlene Bishop to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat, state, and spell your name for the record.
Charlene Bishop, CHARLENE BISHOP.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bishop. As we've had to tell the police officers, surprisingly, I'm going to instruct you to, I need you to talk loud.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to yell and scream, but loud enough so the jury can hear you. Okay? Now, do you know the defendant?
Yes.
And how do you know the defendant?
Ex-husband.
Now, how long were you and the defendant married?
13 years.
And did you know each other prior to you getting married?
Yes, about 5.
So a total of 18? Is that about right?
Yes.
Now, back in 2013, were you living together at I guess the picture's still up there, the 1842 South Sheridan?
Yes.
And besides you and the defendant, was anybody else living in your house at that time?
No.
Similarly, in 2014, were you still living at the Sheridan Street address?
Yes.
And was there anybody else besides you and the defendant living
No.
at that time? Now, we've had some testimony from some folks that have known the defendant about his appearance.
Mm-hmm.
His appearance today, is it the same as it was back in 2013?
No, but significantly different.
Significantly different?
Yes.
How so?
He has lost quite a bit of weight. He was near 300 pounds, and he always had his hair cut about every 3 weeks, so it was very short. And he kept his beard trimmed, or his goatee trimmed.
So, did he have a full beard like he does today?
Sometimes.
All right. But was that how he liked to wear it?
Yes.
All right. How often would you say you wear a goatee?
Probably earlier than 2013.
Okay. And would he keep it, you said nice and trim, in other words,
Mhm.
short to his face?
Yes.
Okay. Not full like it is now?
No.
Okay. Now, we've had some testimony about him receiving blonde highlights.
Yes.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
And was that happening in that 2013 time frame?
Yes.
Okay.
Janice Horton was his hairstylist at the time and had been mine for a while.
Okay, so you both went to Janice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now, during this time frame in 2013, were you employed?
No.
Why is that?
Disabled.
And does your disability require you to, are you insulin dependent?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how long have you been insulin dependent?
30 years in September.
Okay. So a long time.
Yes.
Now, at one point in time during your the time frame that you've been medicating yourself with insulin, did you use the injection method? In other words, with a needle?
I used injections up until 2005 when I received a pump,
Okay.
an insulin pump.
And is that how you currently receive your insulin, through the pump?
Yes.
All right. So since 2005, that has been your method of getting your insulin?
Yes.
All right. Now, we've had some testimony about finding some needles in your house.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second here while I find that photograph for you. People's Exhibit 32. It's right in the monitor right in front of you. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Does that look familiar to you?
Yes, that is my bag.
Okay. And would it be common for you to get needles, go out and buy needles for your use, or how would you get them?
No, once I received my pump, I only needed those in case my pump malfunctioned.
Okay. And was it typical for your pump to malfunction? In other words, was that routine or unusual?
No, unusual.
All right. And as far as your insulin is concerned, where do you store that?
Refrigerator.
All right. And why do you store it in the refrigerator?
To maintain the life of it.
Okay. And are you the kind of person that is pretty, you keep good accounting, if you will, of both your insulin bottles and your needles?
No.
In other words, do you really pay attention to whether something is missing or not?
No,
Okay.
I had no reason to.
Now, these needles, obviously I'm assuming that bag belonged to you.
Yes.
And where did you typically, or where did you store this bag?
It was in a purple tub marked diabetic supplies in a wardrobe closet in our spare room.
And I think investigators have been classifying that as the pink room.
Yes.
Is that,
yeah.
was it
Yes.
pink in color? Now,
Pink wallpaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you indicated was there a closet that had clothes in it?
Yes, that was his closet.
That was the defendant's closet.
Yes.
So the clothes in there belonged to him.
Yes.
Gotcha. Now, I want to show you. This is People's Exhibit 24. You see that?
Yes.
Do you recognize those needles?
Yes.
And how about the insulin bottle?
Yes, that is Humalog insulin. That is the fast-acting insulin I use in my pump.
Okay. Is there any reason why, that you can think of, why those 4 needles in your insulin would have been stored in a small little Sentry-safe lockbox underneath the driver's seat of the van?
No, absolutely not.
Did you provide that to the defendant in order for him to store it there?
No, absolutely not.
Are you aware of any like emergency plan where this was used in case you guys were driving off somewhere and you had an issue with your pump or anything like that?
No.
Has there ever been an occasion where you've had either an issue with your pump or your sugar levels have been out of balance or out of whack, for lack of a way to describe it, and the defendant has actually injected you?
No, never.
I know this probably has happened.
Yes.
What happened? How did you fix
On
it?
one occasion, my sugar was so low I could not respond, and he called the ambulance. Another occasion, I had surgery on my foot, and my sugar was low, and he called the ambulance. When it's been high, we've just driven to Mercy Hospital, which is like 3 miles, maximum 5 minutes from the house.
Okay. So,
Or Hackley. It's not much further for Hackley.
so if I understand correctly, there has never been an occasion since you've been on insulin where the defendant has actually injected you to, bring it back to where you needed to be.
No. Even in the classes that we took, he injected an orange as practice.
Okay. So, thank you for that, because that's my next series of questions. When you did the defendant, I guess, attend any classes with you in relation to your use of insulin?
Yes.
Did he attend all of them?
I believe the majority of them. The others that he didn't, my mother did.
Okay. And from your recollection in those classes that the defendant attended, did any one of them deal with, making sure about being accurate on the amount of insulin that you are being given?
Yes.
And did that include possible side effects if you gave too little or too much?
Yes.
Okay. Did that also include, and I don't know if that was part of the class or part of your treatment, did you receive an injection site map?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just a figure of a body, non-sex. Just shows you injection sites like your arms, your thighs, stomach, appropriate places for the injection as well as the pump sites.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, when you were married to the defendant, did you have interests of your own?
Yes.
What were they?
Sewing. I read a lot. I taught a teenage girls group, was involved in women's ministries at my church, scrapbooking.
Were you pretty active with your church?
Yes.
Did that cause you, because of how active you were, did that cause you to be out of town occasionally?
Yes.
And was that typically during the week or on weekends?
Weekends.
Weekends.
Hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And if you had to attend a function out of town for the weekend, would the defendant go with you?
No. He was not into church at all. He would go on some holidays or during a special occasion,
Okay.
but he was not involved in any of the programs or anything.
Okay. I want to show you another photograph here. This is People's Exhibit 30. Does that computer tower look familiar to you?
Yes, that's his tower that was in the bedroom.
Bedroom. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was this a tower that the defendant used exclusively?
Yes,
All right. And I don't know if you're a computer person or not.
somewhat.
Somewhat? Okay. But this was the defendant's computer?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, as you sit there, Ms. Bishop, can you think of any reason why the defendant would have the need to go to either a middle school or high school swim meet?
No.
Did you have any? Well, you didn't have any kids, correct?
No. He has a daughter.
Okay. Do you know whether or not she was involved in swimming at all?
No. She was involved with volleyball, basketball, and very big into soccer.
Any other relatives of that age, whether it be your side or his side, that had girls in particular that were on swim teams at swim meets?
No, not at all.
Did you ever attend a swim meet?
No.
With him?
Nope.
Now, I want to talk to you about there was a weapon in the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware of that?
Yes.
In fact, let me show you that photograph here. This is People's Exhibit 28. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes.
Now,
That's his dresser drawer.
okay. When that firearm was purchased, was that for your protection, or what was the reasoning behind that? Do you know?
Not really. He was working third shift. It could have been for my protection, although I never touched it. I had actually had a scare one evening and took a machete into the bottom of the closet. Never touched the gun.
Okay. So you're not a gun person.
No.
Now, were you aware of the fact that the defendant had this particular gun in his possession?
No.
Was that gun ever, did you ever see that gun in the house?
No.
Stored anywhere, whether it be in your bedroom,
No.
filing cabinet, anywhere?
No. I rarely went into the filing cabinet if it was there.
Okay. But you never came across this gun?
No.
It was never shown to you?
No.
Did, when the defendant purchased that .380, did you make sure you knew about it, where it was?
No.
No?
Nope. I knew of the one gun.
Well, I'm sorry, that was my question. And again, you're not a gun person. Going back to the original picture, that's a...
Yeah, I just knew of the one.
Okay. And he made sure that you knew about it, knew where it was.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
I knew it was in the dresser.
Okay. Are you aware of any, whether you or the defendant had in your house or in your possession any fake or toy gun?
No.
Any airsoft gun at all?
No.
Okay.
No, we had a grandson, and that was not something I was keen on.
Gotcha.
No guns.
Gotcha. I want to go back in time, do you recall a time in 2013 when 2 Norton Shores police officers came to your house?
Yes.
And how is it that you remember that?
I was inside with the dogs at the time and looked out the front blinds, and the van doors were open, the trunk was open.
Okay. So when you had seen, this is your first observation of them?
Yes.
Okay. And at any point in time, ma'am, did you get an opportunity to talk to them?
No.
Were you made aware at all, either by the officers themselves or the defendant, that the officers wanted to talk to you?
No.
Were you told by the defendant, hey, look, I just had this conversation with a couple police officers and you may want to call them?
Nope.
Any conversation at all?
No.
Now, there's been some testimony about, and I'm talking about 2013 now, a cell phone. Did, at that time, in particular in April of 13, how many cell phones were in the house?
Mine and Jeff's flip phone.
Okay. And was on the date that the officers were there talking to the defendant, were both phones available?
Yes.
In other words, were they available for them to look at if they wanted to?
Yes.
Okay. Were they functioning? In other words, did they work?
Yes.
Right. At any point in time, were you asked by the defendant to grab his phone so he could show it to the officers when they were there?
No.
Back at that time, again, when the officers were present, did you had mentioned some dogs? Did you have a dog house or a dog gate or something like that to keep the dogs from going from room to room, or?
In the house?
Yes.
We had a crate.
A crate.
Frisbee as long as somebody was out there or they were in and out to go to the bathroom.
Okay. So, so they were more inside dogs than outside dogs.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, we just a few minutes ago played a voicemail message from Corporal Hair to the residents. Were you aware at all that one of the police officers had called and actually left you a message to call them?
No.
Did you ever hear that message?
No, I did not.
Did the defendant ever say, hey, look, the officers just left you a message, they'd like you to get a hold of them?
No.
Do you even know what Corporal Hair's voice sounds like?
No.
Okay. So, as far as you're concerned, no police officer reached out to you and left you a message because you didn't hear it?
No. I never heard it.
All right. Just want to play it for you real quick just to make sure.
Investigation that spoke to
I
you
had
ever get
never
that
heard
message?
that. No, I had never heard that.
And at the time, back in 2013, did you have like a micro cassette type answering machine?
Yes.
Okay. I want to play you the second message. You let me know if you got this one.
Hey, Sharon, this is Corporal Hair, North Shores Police, calling you back. We did some more investigation stuff, and I don't think we will need an interview from you unless you have something to tell us or any information you want to pass along. We kind of worked our way through and figured it all out without even having to speak with you. So, unless you have anything else to add, we don't have to speak with you unless you want to speak with us. If you have any questions, we'll try and get in touch with each other. Again, Corporal Hair, North Shores Police. It is 8:30 on the 6th of June, Thursday.
Did you get that voice message?
No, I did not.
Did the defendant ever say, hey, look, they called back and they don't need to talk to you anymore?
Nope.
Is there any reason that you can think of that micro cassette tape was stored in a green camera bag in your shed?
No.
I mean, did you put it there?
No.
All right. In a this is People's Exhibit 18. In a previous statement, the defendant indicated that he had, first of all, purchased this toolbox at an estate sale. Does that sound familiar? Had you ever seen it before?
I've never seen it before.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing it.
All right. Are you familiar with any toolbox in your house?
There was a toolbox that had a Florida like bumper sticker on it that said "Eat it raw."
Okay. Was it black in color?
Yes.
Okay.
And the sticker was red and white.
Okay. But that's not this toolbox.
No.
You've never seen this toolbox before?
Nope.
Now, and so are you aware at all what was found inside this toolbox?
No.
People's Exhibit 20. In a previous statement, the defendant indicated that he had stored the sex toys that you and he were, I guess, using. Is that accurate to you?
In the toolbox in
Yeah.
the van?
Yes.
No, absolutely not. And those aren't ours.
All right. So you didn't use ropes and chains and handcuffs
Absolutely not.
and ball gags.
No.
All right. Excuse me. Were you savvy to what the defendant did on his computer? In other words, things that he looked at or downloaded. Did you pay any attention to that?
Yes, he played a game, like an Empire type game where he built castles and buildings and whatnot, and he had several different worlds. Occasionally I would walk in, usually at dinner time, to give him his meal, and he'd quick shut the computer down and I'd catch a glimpse of porn. Nothing other than adults. He just,
Okay.
that was something he shut down right away. He played Plants and Zombies for a very long time.
Okay. Now, so.
He was also on a website, I believe it's called Busted. They had a newspaper out,
Okay.
and it shows like what people were busted for and shows their mugshot.
Okay. Were you aware at all, or did he share with you the tens of thousands of what I call, abduction, torture, rape, kill videos that he had downloaded?
No.
Did you were not aware of that?
No.
Were you aware at all of the videos that he took of the 15,000 or so swim meet videos that he was in? Were you aware of those?
No.
Had you ever seen any?
No.
Were you aware at all of the videos that he took of the neighbor girls that used to live across the street from you at night?
No.
were you aware at all that he had a special VIX folder? It's on the screen in front of you. This VIX folder with the subfolders for Jessica Herring and Rebecca Bletch. Were you aware
No,
of
I've
those?
never seen that.
So you weren't aware of the contents or anything of that nature
No.
of any of those files?
Nope.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about Grandpa Ham is what I'm going to call him. And where did Grandpa Ham live?
On Bailey Street?
3038 Bailey.
Yes.
And at some point in time, Miss Bishop, did you kind of take over or become more of a caretaker for Grandpa Ham?
Yes, when
When-
Jeff's mother passed away.
Okay, when did that happen?
I want to say it was 2006, but I'm not sure.
Okay. But the defendant's mom passes away, and then you
She was taking care of him.
okay, and you become more active in that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And as part of those duties, I mean, I guess, could you describe for us what you did as a result?
I cleaned his house. I went over and hung with him, visited with him. We took him to breakfast, grocery shopping. Just basically, it was like a friend.
Okay.
A grandpa to me, too.
Okay. And is it safe to say, did you have a pretty good familiarity of the entire house there on Bailey? You knew, all the rooms and what they contained and everything like that?
Yes, I did clean.
I was going to say you were the cleaner. Now, was Grandpa Ham, was he a tidy guy? I mean, did he keep a clean house? Or did he need your help for that?
I would say he needed a little bit of help.
Okay.
He was good at, he could take a shower and dress himself and things like that. And he did his dishes and his own laundry, but as far as like sweeping and dusting and stuff, I did that.
Okay. And during the time frame, from the time you started helping out till he passed, where was the laundry facility located?
At first, when Pam, before she died, she had the laundry moved up to the entranceway.
Okay.
And then it remained there because he couldn't take the stairs to the basement any longer.
Okay. Okay.
He was falling too much and tripping.
And did Grandpa Ham have kind of a routine for groceries? I mean, were there
Yes.
things that he just really enjoyed and had to have every single time?
Oh yeah, his list was basically the same every single week.
What did it contain?
Milk, strawberry preserves, peanut butter, Archway lemon frosted cookies, and of course cornflakes, several boxes at a time.
Okay.
When he passed away, there were 4 boxes in the cupboard.
Gotcha. Now, did you also, and since you were helping clean and maybe even doing were you doing any laundry at the time too?
No, I didn't do his laundry.
But you were the grocery shopper.
Right.
As far as detergent or bleach, what did you buy?
He just tied the powder with bleach
Okay.
in a box.
And was he the same way with Tide that he was with cornflakes?
No.
In other words, did he have to have multiple boxes of Tide around?
No, it was mostly the cornflakes and the lemon cookies.
Okay.
He had to make sure he had those.
And again, obviously when the detergent ran out, you would go and purchase it because you were the grocery shopper. Is that safe?
Yeah, we would go together.
You and Grandpa?
Yeah,
Okay.
he would push the cart for support and then get the stuff on his list.
Okay. I want to show you. This is going to be People's Exhibit 118. Can you think of any reason why there'd be multiple Clorox bleach bottles and multiple boxes of Tide with bleach
No,
in the basement?
no,
I mean,
that's way too many.
in the years that you cleaned,
Mhm.
do you
I would throw those away.
Okay.
We would cut down the boxes, and what didn't fit in his trash, he had a weekly stipend of like one bag, worked out with the garbage company, one bag, and what didn't fit would come to our house. I would bring it home and throw it in our trash.
So, as far as you're concerned, when Grandpa, as the years that you helped when Grandpa was alive, this excess would not exist.
No, and it wouldn't be in the basement either, because he stopped going down in the basement.
Okay. And what year did Grandpa Hand pass away?
2000, well, let's see. I think it was 2010. Grandson was born in 2011, just before, or just after he passed, so probably 2010.
Okay, 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Okay. And after he passed away, did anybody was anybody physically living in the house?
No. It was vacant.
Okay. And ultimately, who took control of the house?
The executor of his estate was Jeff's brother, Larry. But Ben had been in there, Jeff had been in there. We had gone in to separate the pictures and try to get the pictures back to his stepkids, and then donate his stuff to Muskegon Catholic Charities.
Ultimately, did the defendant kind of take over control of this house?
The Norton Shores.
I object to the question, Your Honor. Quite frankly, the answer that he wants is in the question, so if I can-
I'll ask it a different way. Let me ask you this: was the house ever sold? Did it remain in the family?
It remained in the family. It was never sold until after Jeffrey was arrested.
Okay. And so, is it safe to say that the defendant had access to this house?
Yes. On several occasions, he would go over and check the locks. I'm not sure how long it lasted, but he did mow the lawn several times. After that, he did mow the lawn while Grandpa was alive, he and Ben.
Okay. Now you said check the locks. You mean were there separate locks added to the doors?
There was the porch, had an entrance into the house on the front. And there was the side porch with the new steps. And then there was a door to the basement, supposedly that it had been broken into. The lock had been broken into.
All right. And so were replacement locks put in place?
I believe so, yes.
Oh. Did you ever see those, or you were told that?
I was told that.
Gotcha. The silver minivan that you owned. My understanding in the stipulation is that was purchased March of 2013. Does that sound about right?
Yes,
And whose idea was that?
Jeffrey's.
And was there a reason why? Because I know you've indicated you didn't have any kids.
Mm-mm.
Is that a yes?
We didn't have any
Yeah,
kids.
right. And was there a reason why? The need for a van?
More room. Thought it was a nice ride. One of his coworkers had a minivan that he had liked.
Prior to the van, what kind of car did the defendant drive?
A Chevy Cavalier. We both had Chevy Cavaliers.
And I think you indicated in the beginning part of your testimony he was a pretty big guy.
Yes,
Easier to sit in the van or in the Chevy at his size?
the van.
Okay. The only other thing before just a couple more areas. You had provided investigators with some documents, is that right? They asked you for documents that you knew Jeff had written.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
And so you provided them with writing samples
Yes.
on stuff that you knew that the defendant had written. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Ms. Bishop, is your ex-husband in the courtroom?
Yes,
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing, please?
he is right there in the red tie.
Wearing a blue suit?
Yes.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. I have no further questions.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bishop.
Good afternoon.
You remember me? We talked last trial. I'm
Yes.
Fred Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to ask you a few more questions, if I may.
Okay.
Do you know how tall your husband is?
About 5'8".
And it's your recollection as back in 2010, 2011, 2013, he kept his hair short. He got it cut every 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you. You can see his hair from where you are now, can't you?
Yes.
Was it as long as that, or shorter than that, or longer than that when he
Shorter. Shorter on the sides and the back.
Okay. What about on top?
About the same.
Okay.
He had a little spike going that he highlighted in the
Okay.
front.
All right. But you said the spiking stopped when? 2013, 2014?
No, didn't stop until 2016 when he stopped seeing Janice.
When you stopped seeing Janice?
Yes.
Who's Janice?
Janice Horton was the hairstylist
Okay.
that
Thank
he
you.
had been seeing for quite a few years.
All right.
He started to go to Sport Clips.
All right. And you also, I know what it was. I got it confused. He stopped wearing the goatee in 2013. Is that correct? He started going the full beard around that time, 2011, 2013?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2013, he would have had the beard. He'd have the full facial hair like he has now? As far as you can remember?
It would have been thinner,
Okay.
trimmed.
It would have been trimmed, but it would have been
Mhm.
full facial hair. Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, dear. You didn't have children, but you had dogs.
Yes.
And did you, Mr. Willis, and your babies ever go anywhere
Yes.
together? And so there'd be more room in that van for the dogs?
Yes. We went to Lane's Landing a bit and let the dogs run around and walked with the dogs.
Okay.
And we went to the dog beach.
Ah, all right. Back in March 2013, do you remember if Mr. Willis had a bout of gout?
He could have. I don't.
Do you remember, had he ever had gout? Do you know?
No, not that I can remember.
Not that you remember?
Mm-mm.
You remember back in 2013, he took 3 days off, and because he couldn't walk. Do you remember that at all?
No.
Okay. Oh, you mentioned the things that you were doing for Grandpa Ham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yes.
another question. That was me. Silly. Okay. Was fine for that one. You remember things you were doing for Grandma Ham? You mentioned Mr. Willis would mow the lawn.
Yes.
Did he do anything else for Grandma Ham?
He took him to breakfast as well as I did, or grocery shopping. We all went together, or he took him himself.
All right. Did anything? Now, obviously, Grandma Ham was an elderly gentleman at the end.
Yes.
Okay.
97.
Oh, good for him. All right.
Mhm.
So there were I would imagine he was not up to doing a lot of the physical work, repair work around the house. Something broke around the house. He wouldn't be able to do it the last few years of his life, would he?
He would try.
He would try. Okay. And then, after he tried, was there somebody who would assist perhaps finishing the project?
Yes.
Who might that have been?
Jeff.
All right. Let's see here. Ma'am, I have an insensitive question. So I'm going to tell you it's insensitive at the very beginning, so you can brace yourself. Do you suspect Mr. Willis was seeing someone else besides yourself while you were married?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Willis never injected you with insulin. Is that correct?
Correct.
But he went to some of the classes,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and he was there on occasion when the ambulance had to be called.
Yes, he
Oh.
called the ambulance.
Okay. One moment, please. Okay. Ma'am, do you remember a time back in 2013, 2014, where Mr. Willis had a bunch of scratches on his face or on his arms and stuff like that?
He had scratches on his back and on his leg.
Okay, but never on his. You don't remember face and arms?
No.
Okay. Okay.
We kind of parted our ways and did our separate things starting in 2011.
All right. Did you ever call? I think it was you heard that message that came on the answering machine, correct?
Corporal Hair?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
I
ever
just
call
heard
him
that.
back?
No, I never heard the message.
So that message didn't come to your answering to your cell phone?
No.
Where did it go? If it came to the house, where did it go to your cell phone? Do you know where that?
It would have went to the answer machine at home.
Okay, that's what I was getting. You had a landline.
Yes, we did.
And it was connected to an answering machine.
Yes.
And there was a micro cassette in that answering machine.
Yes.
What was your pattern? Did you check that thing regularly? How did you know? You tell me. On what were the circumstances when you checked the answering machine tape?
Well, we were basically on different shifts.
Okay.
He worked third, and so I would take off during the day and do my activities with the women's group or hang with my family, babysit for cousins, and so he was left alone with the machine.
Okay. So, did you? Thank you. But my question is, was the machine ignored? Was the machine checked regularly? How would you describe it?
It was checked regularly.
Okay. And you would check it?
I did check it.
Okay.
He did as well.
Now, when you said you kind of started doing your own thing about 2011,
Yes.
does that mean you're still living on the same roof or that you moved out?
Same roof.
Not even close. Thank you, Ms. Bishop. Is Ms. Bishop correct? Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am. Oh, terrible name. Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions.
I'm good, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Got another witness?
I'm out.
You're not, no more witnesses?
I have no more witnesses.
Oh, okay. I thank you, ma'am. You may stand down.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gents, then this is a good time to break. Apparently, we're out of witnesses for today. So, got a nice break ahead of you for the weekend. Please remember, you can't review any media accounts of the case. You can have a pleasant time without talking about the case to anyone or with anyone involved in the case. And now, we won't be convening here on Monday. You're certainly welcome to come and watch court on Monday if you want. I doubt that you do. But we'll be handling a number of other things on Monday. But we would like to see you back here Tuesday morning at 9:30, and we'll recommence. So I hope you have a pleasant weekend. Yes, court will be in recess.